The city lights blurred into streaks of color as Sarah navigated the bustling streets, her worn sneakers barely cushioning the impact of each hurried step. Her breath plumed in the cool night air, a visible testament to her relentless pace. Every muscle in her body ached, a persistent hum of exhaustion that had become a constant companion. Sarah was a young woman forged in the crucible of hardship, her spirit unyielding despite the relentless pressure of her circumstances. Her days were a dizzying carousel of shifts, early mornings at the local diner, afternoons tutoring neighborhood kids, and late evenings cleaning offices. Each meager paycheck was meticulously divided, a lifeline for her ailing mother, whose medical bills loomed like an insurmountable mountain. Hope, however, flickered within her, a tiny defiant flame. She envisioned a future where her mother was well, where she could pursue her dreams without the suffocating weight of financial despair. It was this vision that fueled her, propelling her forward even when her body screamed for rest. Tonight was no different. The clock on her phone glowed a stark, unforgiving red, 11:47 p.m. She was late, desperately late, for her final cleaning job of the night. The thought of losing even a single hour's pay was unbearable, a direct threat to the fragile stability she fought so hard to maintain. Her fingers, numb with cold and fatigue, fumbled with her phone, trying to confirm her Uber's arrival. The app indicated it was pulling up, a dark sedan, just as she'd requested. Her eyes, heavy-lidded and strained, scanned the street, identifying a sleek, obsidian vehicle gliding to a halt at the curb. Without a moment's hesitation, fueled by adrenaline and the desperate need to make up for lost time, Sarah yanked open the rear door and slipped inside, barely registering the opulent leather interior before muttering her destination. Inside, the luxurious confines of the car, sat Alexander, a man whose name resonated with power and influence throughout the global financial markets. He was a millionaire CEO, a titan of industry known for his razor-sharp intellect, his unyielding resolve, and a demeanor as cold and impenetrable as the steel and glass towers he commanded. His presence exuded an aura of quiet authority, his gaze often distant, perpetually calculating. He was accustomed to silence, to solitude, to the deferential respect of those around him. This unexpected intrusion, therefore, was met with a flicker of surprise, quickly followed by a mild, almost imperceptible irritation. He watched as the young woman, oblivious to her monumental error, settled into the plush seat beside him, her bag clutched tightly in her lap. Her hair, a cascade of dark waves, was slightly disheveled, and her simple, practical clothes spoke of a life far removed from his own gilded cage. Sarah, still preoccupied with the late hour and the impending scolding from her supervisor, finally looked up. Her eyes, adjusting to the dim interior, widened almost imperceptibly. The scent of expensive leather and a faint, masculine cologne filled the air, distinctly different from the utilitarian smell of most rideshares. The silence, thick and heavy, was punctuated only by the soft hum of the engine. Her gaze drifted from the impossibly smooth dashboard to the man beside her. He was impeccably dressed, his tailored suit a stark contrast to her own worn attire. His profile was sharp, aristocratic, and his eyes, when they finally met hers, were a startling shade of steely grey, holding a depth of intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. This was not her Uber driver. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow, a wave of panic washing over her, turning her cheeks a mortified crimson. Her breath hitched, and she instinctively reached for the door handle, a frantic apology forming on her lips. Alexander, however, remained motionless. He observed her panic, her embarrassment, the raw vulnerability etched across her tired face. He had expected anger, perhaps a shouted reprimand from his driver, or even a demand for her immediate removal. But as her eyes, wide with alarm, met his, a strange, unreadable flicker crossed his features. It wasn't anger, nor was it amusement. It was something else entirely, a momentary crack in his carefully constructed facade, a fleeting hint of an emotion he rarely displayed. He simply watched her, his expression inscrutable, as the weight of her mistake settled heavily between them. Little did she know, this simple mistake would unravel a destiny far grander than she could ever imagine. A frantic apology, tumbled from Sarah's lips, a jumbled mess of explanations about the late hour, the identical car model, and her utter exhaustion. Her hands trembled slightly as she gestured vaguely, indicating her readiness to exit the luxurious vehicle immediately, to vanish from this embarrassing predicament as quickly as she had stumbled into it. She felt a burning flush creep up her neck, certain that the man beside her, this imposing figure of quiet authority, must be thoroughly disgusted by her brazen intrusion. Every fibre of her being screamed for the ground to swallow her whole. Alexander, however, remained a statue of stoic composure. His steel-grey eyes, which had initially held a glint of surprise, now seemed to observe her with a detached, almost scientific curiosity. He listened to her hurried words, processing them with the same analytical precision he applied to multi-million-dollar deals. There was no anger in his gaze, no visible impatience, only an unblinking assessment. He saw the genuine distress in her eyes, the palpable mortification that painted her features. For a man accustomed to artifice and calculated moves, her raw, unvarnished reaction was unexpected. It piqued something within him, a nascent interest he rarely afforded to anyone outside his immediate, highly curated world. Then, to Sarah's utter astonishment, a low, even voice broke the silence. "Where are you going?" he asked, his tone devoid of inflection, yet carrying an undeniable command. Sarah blinked, momentarily speechless. She had braced herself for a terse dismissal, in sharp instruction to leave, not an inquiry into her destination. Hesitantly, she mumbled the address of her cleaning job, a location in a less affluent part of the city, far removed from the pristine streets they currently occupied. Alexander nodded slowly, a subtle, almost imperceptible movement that spoke volumes. "I'll take you," he stated, his decision final, leaving no room for argument or further apology. Sarah's jaw dropped slightly. The unexpected offer hung in the air, a surreal twist in an already bizarre evening. She wanted to protest, to insist on finding her own way, but something in his gaze, a quiet certainty, prevented her. Besides, the thought of standing on a dark street corner at this hour, waiting for another ride, filled her with a fresh wave of dread. And so, the journey began, an unlikely ride in an opulent car, driven by a man whose identity remained a mystery to Sarah, though his aura of immense power was undeniable. An uncomfortable silence descended once more, punctuated only by the soft hum of the engine and the occasional nervous glance Sarah stole in his direction. Each opulent detail of the car, the polished wood, the soft glow of interior lights, the hushed efficiency of the driver, served as a stark reminder of the vast chasm between their worlds. Sarah sat stiffly, acutely aware of her worn clothes, the faint scent of cleaning products clinging to her, a stark contrast to the refined atmosphere. Yet, despite her embarrassment, a quiet resilience settled over her. She resolved to maintain her dignity, to express her gratitude without fawning, and to disappear from this man's life as quickly as she had accidentally entered it. Alexander, meanwhile, continued his subtle observations. His peripheral vision took in her tired eyes, the faint smudges beneath them speaking of chronic exhaustion. He noticed the slight fraying at the cuff of her jacket, the well-worn but meticulously clean sneakers. He was a man who missed nothing, and he registered not just the physical signs of her struggle, but also the underlying strength in her posture, the quiet determination in her gaze when she thought he wasn't looking. He was accustomed to people seeking things from him, to flattery and ambition. Her genuine mortification, followed by her quiet resolve, presented a refreshing anomaly. After several minutes of profound silence, Alexander broke it again, his voice still measured. "You work late," he observed, more a statement than a question. Sarah, startled, replied softly, "Yes, sir, I have a few jobs. My mother isn't well, so I need to make sure we're taken care of." In her voice was soft but firm, imbued with an unwavering sense of responsibility. She didn't elaborate, didn't seek pity, simply stated the facts of her existence. This brief exchange, though minimal, was a window into her world, a stark panorama of dedication and struggle. As she spoke of her mother, a fleeting memory, sharp and unbidden, pierced Alexander's carefully constructed defenses. A faint echo of his own difficult past. a time when he, too, had faced adversity with a similar, grim determination, brushed against his consciousness. He quickly suppressed it, a practiced reflex, but the flicker of recognition had been there, a momentary breach in the fortress of his emotional detachment. He found himself studying her profile again, a flicker of something akin to admiration stirring within him. In that brief journey, a seed of connection, however small, was unknowingly planted, destined to blossom in ways neither of them could yet comprehend. The luxurious sedan glided to a halt in front of a building that seemed to sigh with the weight of years. It was a stark contrast to the gleaming vehicle, its brick facade faded, windows dark, a telltale sign of its age and the low-income area it resided in. Sarah recognized it instantly, her final cleaning job of the night, a small independent office where she often worked alone, long after everyone else had gone home. A wave of exhaustion washed over her, but also a surge of relief that the awkward ride was finally over. She turned to Alexander, her eyes filled with a genuine, if weary, gratitude. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft but sincere. "Truly. I don't know what I would have done." She made to open the door, eager to escape the suffocating opulence and the intense gaze of the man beside her. She still didn't know his name, nor his status, but the unspoken message of wealth and power emanating from him was undeniable. As she stepped out onto the cracked pavement, the cool night air was a welcome embrace, a return to the familiar reality of her world. She offered one last nod of thanks, a small, polite gesture, before quickly disappearing into the dimly lit entrance of the building. She was completely unaware that the man she had just left was one of the city's most formidable and reclusive figures, a titan of industry, whose name commanded respect and fear in equal measure. Alexander remained in the car, his eyes fixed on the entrance long after Sarah had vanished. The driver, accustomed to his employer's inscrutable habits, waited patiently, the engine purring softly. A rare moment of introspection settled over Alexander. He was not a man given to whims or sentimental gestures. Every action, every decision, was meticulously calculated, driven by logic and an unwavering pursuit of control and success. Yet the encounter with Sarah had been anything but calculated. It had been an anomaly, a spontaneous deviation from his rigidly structured life, and it left an unsettling, yet strangely compelling residue in its wake. He found himself replaying their brief exchange, her quiet dignity, her unwavering sense of responsibility. It was a stark departure from the sycophantic praise and veiled ambition that usually surrounded him. As the car prepared to pull away, Alexander's gaze fell upon the rich leather seat where Sarah had been sitting. There, nestled almost imperceptibly against the dark upholstery, was a small silver locket. It was delicate, almost fragile, and clearly well loved. He reached for it, his long fingers carefully retrieving the forgotten item. The metal was cool against his skin, a tangible link to the mysterious girl who had stumbled into his car and, in doing so, had so unexpectedly intruded upon his carefully guarded world. He opened the locket. Inside, nestled beneath a thin protective film, were two faded photographs. One was of a younger Sarah, her smile wide and unburdened, her arm wrapped around an older woman who bore a striking resemblance to her. The other was a solo image of the older woman, her eyes kind, a gentle smile playing on her lips. It was clearly Sarah's mother, the woman she had spoken of with such quiet devotion. The photographs, simple and unadorned, spoke volumes about the deep bond between them. A silent testament to love and family, values that had long been absent from Alexander's own life. The locket was more than just a forgotten trinket. It was a small window into Sarah's heart, a symbol of her most cherished connection. Alexander found himself caught in an unfamiliar, internal conflict. His usual detachment, his practiced aloofness, warred with an unfamiliar urge to do something, to somehow return this piece of her world. He could simply discard it or have his driver mail it, an impersonal act that would align with his usual modus operandi. Yet, the image of Sarah's tired but determined face, the quiet strength in her voice as she spoke of her mother, lingered in his mind. He was a man who rarely felt the pull of altruism, Yet an unfamiliar flicker of compassion, a strange sense of responsibility, stirred within him. It was an unsettling sensation, an emotion he hadn't consciously acknowledged in years. After a moment of silent contemplation, a surprising decision solidified in his mind. He closed the locket, his thumb tracing its smooth surface. "Find out everything you can about her," he instructed his driver, his voice low and firm, the command leaving no room for question. "Discreetly, her name, where she works, her family situation, everything." The driver, a man of few words and absolute loyalty, simply nodded, already formulating a plan. Alexander looked at the locket again, a small, silver promise in his hand. The forgotten locket had become a silent promise, a bridge between two vastly different worlds, unknowingly setting in motion a chain of events that would irrevocably alter both their destinies. He knew, with a certainty that surprised even himself, that this was not the last he would hear of Sarah. Alexander's world had always been one of calculated risks and strategic maneuvers, a brutal landscape where sentiment was a weakness, and trust a luxury he could ill afford. He had been an orphan, cast adrift at a young age, learning early that survival depended solely on his own cunning and resilience. His empire, a sprawling conglomerate of technological innovations and financial prowess, was not inherited. It was forged in the fires of relentless ambition and an unyielding will to succeed. Every skyscraper, every successful acquisition, every whispered rumor of his untouchable power was a testament to his singular vision and his ability to transform adversity into advantage. Control was his mantra, success his only god. Despite his immense wealth and the legions of people who depended on his decisions, Alexander lived a solitary existence. His penthouse, a minimalist marvel of glass and steel, offered panoramic views of the city he had conquered, yet it often felt like a gilded cage. He was guarded, not by physical barriers alone, but by impenetrable walls of ambition and the bitter memory of past betrayals. Friendships were fleeting, relationships transactional, and genuine human connection, a concept he had long ago dismissed as an unnecessary vulnerability. He had seen too many promising partnerships crumble under the weight of greed. Too many smiles hide daggers. Flashbacks would sometimes pierce the carefully constructed armor of his composure. The face of a former associate, a man he had trusted implicitly, dissolving into a sneer as he orchestrated a hostile takeover, leaving Alexander to pick up the pieces of a dream almost shattered. Yet betrayal had been a crucible, hardening his heart, teaching him the harsh lesson that loyalty was often just a temporary convenience. His own family history was a tapestry woven with threads of loss and manipulation. His parents, brilliant but naive, had been victims of corporate espionage. Their innovative company stolen from beneath their feet, leading to a financial ruin that ultimately consumed them. Alexander had witnessed the devastating aftermath, the slow erosion of their spirit, and had vowed never to suffer the same fate. This painful legacy fueled his relentless drive, casting a long shadow of distrust over every interaction, every potential connection. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him constantly. The empire he had built was a living entity, demanding ceaseless vigilance, cunning, and an almost superhuman ability to anticipate and neutralize threats. Protecting his interests, safeguarding the livelihoods of thousands, was a burden he carried with stoic resolve, leaving little room for personal indulgence or emotional entanglement. Later that week, the driver, a shadow in Alexander's meticulously organized life, presented his report. It was concise, factual, and devoid of embellishment, exactly as Alexander preferred. Sarah Evans. Her address, a modest apartment in a less affluent part of the city. Her multiple cleaning jobs, her exhausted schedule. Her mother, Eleanor Evans, suffering from a chronic, debilitating illness that required expensive medication and frequent hospital visits, costs that were rapidly depleting their meager savings. The report painted a vivid picture of a young woman teetering on the precipice of despair, yet holding on with unwavering dedication, her spirit unbroken. The details about her mother's illness resonated with an unexpected pang in Alexander's chest, a faint echo of his own parents' struggles. For a moment, Alexander simply stared at the file, the sterile facts on the page contrasting sharply with the vivid image of Sarah's tired but determined eyes. He picked up the silver locket from his desk, turning it over in his fingers. The faded photographs of Sarah and her mother seemed to gaze up at him, a silent plea. An unfamiliar impulse, strong and undeniable, took root. "Arrange for Mrs. Evans's medical bills to be paid," Alexander instructed his assistant, his voice betraying no emotion. "Anonymously. Ensure it's done through a third party, untraceable to me, and make sure she receives the best possible care, whatever it takes." His assistant, accustomed to his employer's sometimes inexplicable directives, simply nodded, already making mental notes. Alexander watched the assistant leave, then turned back to the cityscape outside his window. He grappled with this unexpected act of kindness, questioning his own motives. Was it pity? A fleeting sense of obligation because she had stumbled into his car? Or was it something else, a nascent empathy he had long suppressed, stirred by Sarah's quiet strength and her profound love for her mother? The anonymous donation was a stark deviation from his usual pragmatic approach, an act that defied the logical, self-serving principles that governed his life. He was a man who acted only when there was a clear benefit, a strategic advantage. Yet, here he was, extending a lifeline to a complete stranger, with no discernible gain for himself. He ran a hand through his dark hair, a rare gesture of internal turmoil. The echoes of his own wounded past, of helplessness and loss, seemed to stir within him, challenged by this unexpected compassion. It was a disquieting sensation, a crack in the formidable walls he had so meticulously constructed around his heart. The locket lay on his desk, a silent testament to the fragile bridge he had unknowingly begun to build between his world and hers. Sarah's mother, Eleanor, began to show remarkable improvement. The chronic pain that had etched lines of suffering onto her face gradually receded, replaced by a fragile but genuine smile. Her eyes, once clouded with weariness, now held a sparkle of renewed hope. The expensive medications, the specialized treatments, and the comforting presence of a dedicated nurse had worked miracles, lifting a crushing weight from Sarah's shoulders. Yet, the mystery of their anonymous benefactor loomed large, a benevolent shadow in their lives. Sarah felt an overwhelming, almost desperate need to find this guardian angel, to express the profound gratitude that swelled within her heart. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the kindness, the unexpected compassion that had saved her mother and, in turn, saved a part of Sarah herself. She spent hours tracing potential leads, making discreet inquiries, but the benefactor had covered their tracks meticulously, leaving no discernible trail. Life, however, continued its relentless pace. Sarah still juggled her cleaning jobs, though with a lighter step and a heart less burdened. One evening, an urgent catering assignment came through, an unexpected opportunity to earn extra money for her mother's ongoing recovery. It was for a high society gala, a glittering affair held in one of the city's most exclusive venues. As Sarah artfully arranged canapes on silver trays, her eyes scanned the opulent ballroom. It whirled away from her usual surroundings. The air hummed with the murmur of polite conversation, the clinking of crystal, and the soft strains of a string quartet. Then, her breath hitched. Across the room, amidst a cluster of powerful-looking men, stood Alexander, the CEO, the man from the car, the man whose piercing gaze and quiet demeanor had left an indelible impression on her. He was even more imposing in a tailored tuxedo, radiating an aura of understated power that commanded attention without demanding it. A wave of disbelief, followed by a surge of recognition, washed over her. It was him. The man who had given her that strange, silent ride. Could he possibly be the anonymous benefactor? The thought was audacious, almost ludicrous, yet a persistent intuition gnawed at her. Alexander, meanwhile, was engaged in a discussion about a potential merger, his mind sharp and focused. He gestured subtly to emphasize a point, his gaze sweeping across the room with practiced ease. Then, his eyes snagged on a familiar figure, moving gracefully through the throng of guests, a tray of champagne flutes balanced expertly in her hands. Sarah, a flicker of surprise, quickly masked, crossed his face. He hadn't expected to see her here, in this world so different from the one he had glimpsed that night. A peculiar sense of magnetic pull, a feeling he rarely indulged, drew his attention. After delivering her tray, Sarah, driven by an inexplicable compulsion, made her way towards him. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of nerves and hope. "Mr. Alexander," she began, her voice a little shaky but firm. He turned, his expression unreadable, a cool mask of professionalism. "Yes?" he inquired, his voice a low timbre that sent a shiver down her spine. It's Sarah," she continued, her gaze unwavering. From the car, the Uber mix-up. A subtle shift in his eyes, a fleeting moment of recognition, confirmed her suspicion. He remembered. "Miss Evans," he acknowledged, a slight formality in his tone. "A surprise to see you here. I think I know who paid for my mother's treatment," Sarah blurted out, unable to hold back the torrent of her emotions. Her voice trembled with a mixture of gratitude and a nascent, terrifying hope. "It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who helped us." Alexander's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He took a sip of his drink, his eyes darting to the other executives who had momentarily paused their conversation, sensing the shift in dynamics. "I assure you, Ms. Evans, I have no knowledge of any such arrangement," he stated, his voice carefully neutral, a wall of denial that seemed impenetrable. "You must be mistaken." But Sarah, despite his words, sensed the kindness beneath his carefully constructed facade. She saw the minute tension in his shoulders, the fleeting hesitation in his eyes. She felt it, a deep, undeniable conviction that he was indeed their mysterious savior. "No," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't think I am. And even if you deny it, I want to thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. You saved her life." A single tear escaped, tracing a path down her cheek, a testament to the profound relief and gratitude she felt. Alexander remained silent, his gaze fixed on her, a complex mix of emotions swirling beneath his composed exterior. He was unnerved by her directness, by the raw honesty of her gratitude. He had intended for his act to remain anonymous, a detached transaction. Yet here she was, tearing down his carefully erected barriers with a single heartfelt thank you. He felt a strange pull, a reluctant admiration for her unwavering belief, for her genuine spirit. Their paths had crossed again, under a different light, forcing Alexander to confront the kindness he tried so desperately to conceal. The encounter was brief, yet it resonated with an unspoken significance, a silent acknowledgement that their connection, born of a simple mistake, was far from over. Alexander's internal conflict intensified dramatically after that unexpected encounter. Sarah's raw gratitude, her unwavering certainty despite his denials, chipped away at the carefully constructed facade he had maintained for years. He found himself replaying her words, her tear-filled eyes, and the profound sincerity of her "thank you." It was disarming, unsettling, and yet strangely captivating. He was drawn to her genuineness, a quality so rare in his world, yet his ingrained fear of vulnerability, a byproduct of a lifetime of betrayals and self-reliance, fought against this nascent connection. He tried to dismiss it, to categorize Sarah as another fleeting distraction, but her image lingered. Her resilience, her quiet strength, resonated with a part of him he thought long buried. He found himself contemplating ways to see her again, not for business, but for something he couldn't quite name. He rationalized it as curiosity, a desire to understand the woman who could so easily dismantle his defenses. These weren't overt actions, not yet, but subtle manipulations of his schedule, a series of coincidences that he meticulously arranged. A charity event his company sponsored, where he knew catering staff would be present. A downtown art exhibition opening near the cleaning agency Sarah worked for. Each time, he hoped to catch a glimpse, to perhaps engineer another accidental meeting. These carefully orchestrated encounters, initially brief and seemingly happenstance, slowly evolved into more substantial interactions. They began with polite nods, then progressed to brief exchanges about the event, the weather, the mundane. Yet within these seemingly trivial conversations, a deeper current flowed. Sarah, unaware of his orchestrations, found herself increasingly comfortable in his presence. She was surprised by his unexpected depth, the flashes of dry wit, and the keen intellect that lay beneath his often impenetrable exterior. They discussed life, not in the abstract, but the tangible struggles and triumphs. She spoke of her aspirations for her mother's full recovery, her dreams of opening a small bakery, her quiet determination to rise above her circumstances. Alexander, in turn, found himself sharing, cautiously at first, then with increasing openness, insights into the complexities of his business world, the pressures he faced, in the solitude that often accompanied his success. Sarah's warmth and unwavering optimism began to chip away at Alexander's deep-seated cynicism. He had always viewed the world through a lens of suspicion, every interaction a potential negotiation, every person a potential threat or asset. Sarah offered a different perspective, one rooted in simple kindness and genuine human connection. She saw beyond the billionaire CEO, beyond the cold exterior, to the man beneath, a man capable of profound generosity and quiet suffering. Her presence was like a gentle, persistent stream, eroding the hardened rock of his guarded heart. Alexander's admiration for her grew with each passing conversation. He witnessed her strength as she faced daily adversity, her resilience in the face of setbacks, and her unwavering spirit that refused to be extinguished by hardship. He saw her unwavering dedication to her family, a stark contrast to the often superficial relationships he encountered in his own life. He began to appreciate the simple beauty of her world, a world where genuine emotions and authentic connections held more value than any material wealth. He found himself looking forward to their chance meetings, a strange, unfamiliar anticipation bubbling within him. One evening, after an impromptu coffee that stretched into a surprisingly candid conversation about their respective childhoods, Alexander reached into his inner jacket pocket. He pulled out a small velvet pouch and placed it on the table between them. Sarah looked at it, then at him, a question in her eyes. He opened the pouch, revealing the delicate silver locket, glinting softly under the cafe lights. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "I believe this belongs to you, Miss Evans," he said, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. "You left it in my car that night." Sarah picked up the locket, her fingers tracing the familiar engravings. Her eyes welled up with tears, not of sadness, but of profound emotion. "My mother's locket," she whispered, her voice thick. "I thought it was lost forever." She looked up at him, a mixture of disbelief and wonder in her gaze. "You kept it?" Alexander nodded, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. It seemed important. It was a subtle admission, in silent acknowledgement of his interest, a tangible link to their very first, fateful encounter. It was a gesture that spoke volumes, revealing a depth of thought and care that contradicted his usual reserved demeanor. Sarah's emotional reaction was immediate and overwhelming. She was touched by his gesture, by the fact that he had held on to something so personal to her for so long. It wasn't just about the locket. It was about the unspoken message it conveyed, that he remembered, that he cared, that she mattered. In that moment, a palpable tension filled the space between them, an unspoken understanding that transcended words. It was a connection that had been silently building, a bridge forming between their vastly different worlds. They sat there, a comfortable silence enveloping them, the locket a small, shining testament to their burgeoning bond. With each shared moment, the walls around Alexander's heart began to crumble, revealing a man yearning for connection, a man whose carefully constructed solitude was slowly, irrevocably being dismantled by the genuine spirit of Sarah. The unexpected journey they had embarked upon was now moving beyond mere chance, towards a destiny neither of them could have foreseen. The burgeoning connection between Sarah and Alexander, however fragile, did not escape the notice of everyone. Marcus Thorne, a rival CEO, harbored a deep-seated resentment towards Alexander. Their paths had crossed years ago in a cutthroat business deal, one that left Marcus feeling betrayed and financially wounded. He had watched Alexander's ascent with a venomous jealousy, nursing a quiet thirst for revenge. When whispers of Alexander's unusual interest in a young woman, seemingly outside his usual social circles, reached Marcus, a sinister plan began to form in his cunning mind. He saw Sarah not as a person, but as a lever, a weakness to exploit in Alexander's otherwise impenetrable armor. Marcus, a master manipulator, began his insidious scheme with calculated precision. He subtly infiltrated social circles where Sarah occasionally worked or was known, planting carefully crafted seeds of doubt. He would casually mention Alexander's reputation, twisting facts and fabricating motives. Alexander Sterling, he would muse to acquaintances, ensuring the words would eventually reach Sarah's ears, is a man who sees everyone as a commodity. He built his empire by using people, discarding them when they no longer serve his purpose. He's charming, yes, but only when it benefits him. He would paint a picture of Alexander as a ruthless opportunist, a man incapable of genuine emotion, especially towards someone like Sarah, who, in his twisted narrative, was merely a fleeting curiosity, a new toy for the powerful CEO. Sarah, already navigating the complexities of her feelings for Alexander, found herself increasingly confused. The warmth and vulnerability she had glimpsed in him, the kindness he had shown, clashed violently with the whispers of betrayal that now reached her. She started to question his sincerity, torn between the burgeoning trust in her heart and the insidious suggestions of his exploitative nature. Could the man who had anonymously paid for her mother's medical bills, the man who had kept her locket, truly be so callous? Or was this kindness merely a calculated move, a prelude to some unknown, self-serving agenda? The genuine moments they had shared, the quiet understanding that had grown between them, began to feel tainted, viewed through a newly clouded lens of suspicion. Alexander, meanwhile, remained blissfully unaware of the venomous whispers swirling around Sarah. He was basking in the unfamiliar glow of their connection, allowing himself to truly feel for the first time in years. He noticed Sarah's growing distance, her subtle shift from warmth to a guarded coolness, but he attributed it to her demanding schedule or perhaps her own reservations about their social disparity. He tried to bridge the gap, sending her flowers, suggesting another coffee, but she politely declined, her excuses becoming increasingly vague. The sudden coldness from her, after the intimacy they had begun to build, was a bewildering blow, one he couldn't comprehend. The tension culminated in a heated, heart-wrenching argument. Sarah, her emotions a tumultuous storm of confusion and hurt, confronted Alexander. Marcus's lies, replayed in her mind countless times, fueled her accusations. "You're just playing with me, aren't you?" she cried, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and raw pain. "You think you can just waltz into my life, offer false kindness, and then— What? Add me to your collection of conquests? Is this all just a game to you, Alexander?" Her words, sharp and laced with betrayal, pierced him deeply. Alexander was utterly blindsided. Her accusations were a brutal echo of past betrayals, a confirmation of his deepest fears about allowing anyone close. The sting of her words was magnified by the fact that they came from Sarah, the one person who had begun to dismantle his carefully constructed walls. His own hurt, a raw, exposed nerve, manifested as a cold, defensive anger. "A game," he retorted, his voice low and dangerous. "After everything, after I let you in." He couldn't bring himself to articulate the depth of his feelings, the vulnerability he had dared to show. The misunderstanding between them was vast, a chasm opening wider with every word. Both were left reeling, the beautiful, nascent connection shattered. Sarah, consumed by doubt and Marcus's poisonous narrative, saw only the ruthless CEO, the man she had been warned about. Alexander, wounded by what he perceived as her unjust accusations and betrayal, retreated into his familiar solitude, his walls rebuilt stronger and higher than ever before. A shadowy hand had indeed reached out from the past, poisoning their blossoming connection with deceit and suspicion, leaving them both adrift in a sea of doubt and hurt. Alexander retreated into the icy solitude that had been his refuge for so long, a fortress built brick by brick from past disappointments and betrayals. Sarah's words, sharp and unwarranted in his mind, had not merely wounded him. They had confirmed his darkest suspicions about human nature. He had allowed a crack in his formidable armor, had dared to feel. And in return, he believed he had been met with the same fickle distrust that had plagued his life. The sting of her accusations, echoing the treachery of former associates, solidified his conviction that vulnerability was a weakness he could ill afford. He saw her now as another in a long line of people who would ultimately disappoint him, another lesson learned through pain. His despair was a heavy cloak, wrapping him in a familiar chill, and he resolved to never again let anyone get close enough to inflict such a blow. Meanwhile, Marcus reveled in his perceived triumph. He watched from the sidelines as the rift between Alexander and Sarah widened, a smug satisfaction settling over him. Alexander's pain, his isolation, was a sweet nectar, the culmination of years of simmering resentment finally coming to fruition. He believed his revenge was complete, his carefully laid plans having achieved their desired effect. The thought of Alexander, the untouchable CEO, suffering because of his machinations, filled him with a perverse sense of power. He saw himself as the architect of Alexander's undoing, the one who had finally brought the mighty Titan to his knees, even if only emotionally. Yet, a seed of doubt had begun to sprout in Sarah's heart. The initial shock and anger that had fueled her confrontation with Alexander slowly began to recede, replaced by a gnawing unease. Marcus's triumphant smirk, his overly eager confirmation of Alexander's supposed villainy, struck her as disingenuous. The pieces of his narrative, once so convincing, now felt forced, too perfect. She remembered Alexander's genuinely hurt expression, the raw pain in his eyes when she accused him. Could a man truly capable of such cold manipulation exhibit such genuine vulnerability? The memory of his quiet kindness, the locket, the anonymous medical bills, these moments refused to align with Marcus's portrayal of a heartless opportunist. A chilling realization began to dawn on her. She might have made a terrible mistake. Driven by an urgent need for truth, Sarah embarked on a discreet investigation into Marcus. She started by subtly questioning mutual acquaintances, piecing together fragments of information about his past dealings with Alexander. She spent hours researching old business news, poring over archived articles about Alexander's company and its rivals. What she uncovered was a pattern of professional jealousy, a history of Marcus attempting to undermine Alexander's ventures even before their partnership dissolved. Whispers of shady tactics, failed attempts at corporate espionage, and a deep-seated bitterness emerged from the shadows. The more she dug, the clearer the picture became. Marcus had a long-standing grudge, a vendetta fueled by envy and a desire for Alexander's downfall. The revelation hit her with the force of a physical blow. She found irrefutable proof, old emails, leaked documents from disgruntled former employees, even a recorded phone conversation Marcus had carelessly left on a shared server, detailing his elaborate scheme to discredit Alexander. He had systematically fed her misinformation, twisting facts and fabricating scenarios to poison her against Alexander. She saw the depth of his treachery, his calculated manipulation, and the cold, cruel intent behind his actions. Her own grave mistake, her quickness to believe, now weighed heavily on her conscience, a searing regret. She had not only misjudged Alexander, but had inadvertently become a pawn in Marcus's game, hurting the very person she had begun to care for deeply. Her desperate plea to reach Alexander was met with a wall of silence. He refused her calls, ignored her messages, and instructed his staff to deny her access. His walls, once breached, were now rebuilt stronger and higher than ever. Fortified by renewed distrust and a profound sense of hurt, he saw her attempts to contact him as further manipulation, another cruel twist of the knife. The pain of her accusations had hardened him, transforming his earlier despair into a cold, resolute detachment. He believed she had confirmed his lifelong cynical view of human connection. Sarah knew she was in a race against time. Marcus, emboldened by his perceived success, was now actively working to destabilize Alexander's company, spreading rumors and attempting to poach key employees. She understood that if she didn't act swiftly, Marcus's vengeful machinations could cause irreparable damage, not just to Alexander's empire, but to the man himself. She had to expose him, not just for Alexander's sake, but for her own redemption, to right the terrible wrong she had unwittingly perpetrated. The truth, once hidden, began its slow, painful climb to the surface, demanding justice and a chance at redemption, a chance she was determined to seize, no matter the cost. Sarah knew that a direct, private confrontation with Marcus would be futile. He would simply deny everything. The evidence she had painstakingly gathered needed to be presented in a public forum, where his denials would crumble under scrutiny and where Alexander, too, would be forced to witness the truth. She spent sleepless nights meticulously planning her approach, refining her strategy, and steeling her nerves for what she knew would be a high-stakes gamble. Her reputation, her nascent career, and even her personal safety could be at risk. But the thought of Alexander suffering unjustly spurred her onward. She understood that only a dramatic, undeniable revelation could pierce through the layers of deceit and reach Alexander's guarded heart. The opportunity arose in the form of a crucial business conference, a high-profile event where Alexander was scheduled to deliver the keynote address, outlining his company's future vision and a major new acquisition. The conference was a gathering of industry titans, investors, and media, the perfect stage for Marcus's public humiliation and Alexander's enlightenment. Sarah secured a press pass, leveraging her contacts from her burgeoning freelance writing endeavors, a cover that would grant her access to the main hall without raising suspicion. Her heart hammered against her ribs as the day approached, a blend of terror and fierce determination coursing through her veins. She rehearsed her words, anticipating Marcus's reactions, preparing for every possible counter-argument. The conference hall buzzed with anticipation as Alexander took the stage, his presence commanding, his voice resonating with authority. He spoke of innovation, integrity, and the future, his gaze occasionally sweeping over the audience, devoid of any recognition for Sarah, who sat anonymously amidst the sea of faces. Her moment came during the Q&A session after Alexander's presentation, a time when the floor was opened to media inquiries. As Marcus, who was also present, stood to ask a seemingly innocuous yet subtly undermining question, Sarah seized her chance. She rose, her voice trembling slightly at first, but quickly gaining strength as she addressed not Alexander but Marcus directly. "Mr. Thorne," she began, her words cutting through the polite murmurs, "perhaps you'd care to explain these documents, detailing your attempts to sabotage Mr. Vance's acquisition deal and your systematic campaign to discredit him personally?" A hush fell over the room, thick and immediate. Every eye snapped to Sarah, then to Marcus, whose face instantly drained of color. He stammered, attempting to dismiss her as a disgruntled employee, a fabrication. But Sarah was prepared. She projected images onto the large screens flanking the stage. Screenshots of the incriminating emails, snippets of the recorded phone call, and financial documents detailing Marcus's illicit dealings with a rival firm. The evidence was irrefutable, meticulously compiled, leaving no room for doubt. The shockwaves that rippled through the audience were palpable. Whispers erupted, cameras flashed, and the once orderly conference descended into a stunned uproar. Alexander, initially bewildered, watched in growing disbelief, his eyes fixed on the damning evidence, then on Sarah, a flicker of understanding, then dawning horror crossing his features. Marcus, cornered and exposed, launched into a desperate attempt to deny, to discredit Sarah, labeling her a liar, a fantasist, a pawn of someone else's agenda. He pointed fingers, his voice rising in panic, but his words lacked conviction, overshadowed by the undeniable truth displayed for all to see. The sheer weight of the evidence, presented so boldly and publicly, made his protestations seem pathetic and desperate. The industry leaders, known for their shrewd judgment, recognized the clear pattern of malice and deception. Alexander's realization was a slow, painful burn. He saw not just Marcus's treachery, but the depth of Sarah's loyalty, her unwavering courage in standing up for him, even when he had shut her out. He understood the extent of Marcus's betrayal, how he had manipulated not only the business, but also his personal life, poisoning his burgeoning trust in Sarah. A wave of profound shame washed over him for his earlier distrust, for allowing his past wounds to blind him to her genuine character. He saw the strength in her quiet resolve, the fierce love that had driven her to this extreme measure. Then, in a moment of raw, vulnerable courage, Sarah turned her gaze fully to Alexander. Her voice, though still echoing with the earlier fire, softened, imbued with an aching sincerity. "Alexander," she confessed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, "I was wrong. I doubted you. I let his lies twist my heart. But the truth is, I love you. And I couldn't stand by and watch him destroy you, not when I knew what he was truly capable of." Her words hung in the air, a profound declaration that silenced the room once more, piercing through Alexander's hardened resolve. It was a confession born of desperation and deep affection, a testament to her unwavering belief in the man he truly was, beneath the layers of guarded ambition. Before Marcus could launch another desperate, flailing attack, Alexander moved. He descended from the stage, his expression a mixture of fury and burgeoning emotion. He didn't speak, but his presence alone was a powerful shield. He positioned himself protectively beside Sarah, his hand subtly brushing her arm, a silent but unequivocal declaration of support. His eyes, now burning with a cold fury, fixed on Marcus, conveying a promise of swift and merciless retribution. In that moment, Sarah knew she had done the right thing, and that Alexander finally, truly saw her. The fallout from the conference was immediate and devastating for Marcus. His carefully constructed facade crumbled under the weight of irrefutable evidence. The industry, ever vigilant of its reputation, swiftly moved to disassociate itself from his tainted dealings. Investigations were launched, leading to legal action that stripped him of his assets and his standing, leaving him a pariah in the world he once dominated. Justice, swift and uncompromising, had been served, thanks to Sarah's audacious courage. Alexander, having seen the full extent of Marcus's treachery and Sarah's unwavering loyalty, felt a profound shift within him. The carefully constructed walls around his heart, once thought impregnable, had been irrevocably breached. He sought out Sarah the very next day, not with anger, but with a humility that was utterly uncharacteristic of the formidable CEO. He found her in a quiet corner of a small coffee shop, nursing a lukewarm tea, still processing the whirlwind of the previous evening. He approached her cautiously, his usual commanding presence softened by a palpable vulnerability. "Sarah," he began, his voice a low rumble, "I owe you an apology. A profound one. For my distrust, for allowing my past to cloud my judgment of you, and for not believing in you when you needed me most." His gaze was direct, earnest, reflecting a sincerity she had rarely seen in him before. He continued, "Your courage, your integrity. It opened my eyes to a truth I had stubbornly refused to see. You saved me, Sarah, in more ways than one." Sarah, still emotionally raw from the public confrontation, met his gaze with a mixture of relief and understanding. The anger she had felt, the deep hurt from his initial rejection, began to dissipate in the face of his genuine remorse. She saw the true Alexander, stripped of his corporate armor, revealing a man capable of deep feeling and regret. "Alexander," she replied softly, "I understand. Your past, it's a heavy burden, and I know I was too quick to judge, too easily swayed by Marcus's lies. For that, I am truly sorry." Her words were not just an acceptance of his apology, but an offering of her own, a testament to her compassionate nature. Their conversation flowed, unburdened by secrets or unspoken resentments. They spoke for hours, sharing their vulnerabilities, their fears, their hopes. Alexander confessed the full extent of his past traumas, the betrayals that had shaped his distrust, the isolation that came with his immense power. Sarah, in turn, shared the anxieties of her own life, the constant struggle to provide for her mother, the dreams she had almost given up on. With each shared revelation, a deeper connection formed, a bond forged in the crucible of adversity and honest communication. Alexander, once so guarded, now found himself shedding his guarded demeanor. allowing himself to be open and vulnerable with Sarah. Her unwavering belief in him, her steadfast courage, had unlocked something profound within him. He began to see the world through her eyes, a world where compassion and integrity held as much weight as profit margins and market shares. The transformation was subtle at first, then increasingly evident to those around him. He became more approachable, more empathetic, his decisions reflecting a newfound understanding of human complexity. Their bond strengthened, built not on fleeting infatuation, but on a foundation of honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. They had navigated the treacherous waters of deceit and distrust, emerging stronger and more connected than ever before. The public, initially captivated by the scandal, soon shifted its attention to their remarkable story. While some remained skeptical, whispering about ulterior motives, many were deeply touched by their tale of triumph over adversity, a testament to the power of truth and genuine connection. Inspired by Sarah's unwavering compassion and integrity, Alexander found a renewed purpose, a drive beyond the mere accumulation of wealth. He realized that his power and resources could be wielded for good, to create lasting, positive change. His company, once solely focused on aggressive expansion, began to integrate ethical practices and social responsibility into its core mission. He initiated philanthropic endeavors, channeling his vast resources into healthcare initiatives, particularly those aiding underprivileged families, and educational programs designed to empower young people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Sarah, ever the pragmatist, became his invaluable partner in these ventures. Her first-hand experience with hardship provided a crucial perspective, ensuring their charitable efforts were impactful and genuinely met the needs of the communities they served. She guided him, not with grand pronouncements, but with quiet wisdom and an intuitive understanding of human suffering. Together, they embarked on a journey that transcended personal ambition, dedicating themselves to making a tangible difference in the world. From the ashes of betrayal, a love story, forged in fire and forgiveness, had truly begun to bloom, promising a future rich with purpose and shared dreams. Alexander, deeply moved by Sarah's unwavering dedication to social good, began to channel his immense wealth into philanthropic endeavors, focusing intently on healthcare and education. He established foundations and grants, ensuring that his resources directly benefited those most in need, a stark contrast to his earlier, purely profit-driven pursuits. This shift was not merely a superficial change in image, it was a profound reorientation of his life's purpose, sparked entirely by Sarah's influence. He found a satisfaction in giving that far surpassed any financial gain, a sense of fulfillment he had never known. Sarah, with her innate understanding of the struggles faced by ordinary people, became an indispensable force in these charitable undertakings. She didn't just support his efforts passively, she actively guided them, her lived experience providing invaluable insight. Her unique perspective ensured that their initiatives were not just well-funded, but also thoughtfully designed, reaching the heart of communities and truly making a difference. She helped him see beyond spreadsheets and balance sheets, reminding him of the human element in every decision, every donation. Together, they formed a formidable team, a blend of Alexander's strategic brilliance and Sarah's compassionate pragmatism, building a legacy of genuine impact. Their shared future began to unfold, a tapestry woven with threads of shared values and dreams. They built a life together, seamlessly blending their disparate worlds. Alexander, once the embodiment of corporate aloofness, now found joy in simple moments, in shared laughter over a home-cooked meal, in the quiet companionship that Sarah brought into his once solitary existence. Their lives, though still marked by the demands of Alexander's empire, were now enriched by a deeper purpose and commitment to each other and to the wider world. The healing of old wounds, both metaphorical and literal, became a significant part of Alexander's journey. He sought therapy, confronting the deep-seated traumas of his past, the betrayals that had hardened his heart for so long. With Sarah by his side, offering unwavering support and understanding, he slowly began to dismantle the walls he had erected around himself. The process was painful, but ultimately liberating, allowing him to find a peace and closure he had once thought impossible. He learned to trust again, not just Sarah, but himself and the world around him. A beacon of their enduring hope and resilience was the full recovery of Sarah's mother. The anonymous aid Alexander had provided so selflessly, long before he ever admitted his feelings for Sarah, had given her mother a new lease on life. Her health steadily improved, a testament to the power of timely medical intervention and the quiet kindness of a man who was then a stranger. She became a symbol of their journey, a tangible reminder of how their paths had intertwined, leading to unforeseen blessings. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Alexander led Sarah to a secluded spot overlooking the city lights. His heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and nerves, a feeling he rarely experienced. He spoke of their journey, of the fateful car ride, of the challenges they had overcome, and of the profound love that had grown between them. Then, dropping to one knee, he presented a ring, not ostentatious, but exquisitely elegant, a reflection of their understated yet powerful bond. In a voice filled with emotion, he asked, "Sarah, my love, will you marry me and build this future with me forever?" Sarah's eyes welled with tears of joy, her heart overflowing with a happiness she had once only dreamed of. Her joyous acceptance was immediate and heartfelt, a culmination of their incredible journey, a promise of a future filled with boundless love, shared purpose, and unwavering companionship. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated bliss, marking a new chapter in their extraordinary story. The blending of families followed naturally, a testament to the warmth and acceptance that now defined their lives. Sarah's mother, fully recovered and radiating health, embraced Alexander as if he were her own son, her gratitude for his unspoken kindness evident in every loving gaze. Alexander, in turn, found in Sarah's mother the maternal affection he had been deprived of for so long, a sense of belonging that healed a deep void within him. He finally had a true family, a place where he felt loved, cherished, and completely at home, a stark contrast to the solitary existence he had once known. Their unconventional beginning had indeed paved the way for a future built on love, purpose, and the unwavering belief in each other. A testament to the unexpected turns of destiny, the day of the wedding dawned, a vibrant tapestry of sunshine and soft breezes, perfectly reflecting the joy that permeated the air. It was a beautiful ceremony, held in a lush garden, far from the prying eyes of the media, yet filled with the warmth of their closest friends and family. Sarah, radiant in a simple yet elegant gown, walked down the aisle, her eyes fixed on Alexander, who stood waiting, his gaze mirroring her profound love. Every vow exchanged, every tender touch, was a testament to their enduring love, a powerful symbol of the triumph of the human spirit over adversity, suspicion, and societal expectations. It was a celebration not just of two individuals uniting, but of two worlds merging, creating something new and extraordinary. Their impact extended far beyond their personal happiness. Alexander and Sarah quickly became a formidable power couple, not only in the cutthroat world of business, but more importantly, in the realm of philanthropy. Inspired by Sarah's unwavering compassion and her first-hand experience with hardship, Alexander directed a significant portion of his vast resources towards initiatives focused on healthcare accessibility and quality education for underprivileged communities. Sarah, drawing on her past struggles and intimate understanding of the needs of the less fortunate, became a driving force behind their charitable foundation. She ensured that their efforts were not merely superficial, but deeply impactful, reaching those who needed it most. They became beacons of hope, inspiring countless others with their story and their dedication to making a tangible difference in the world. Their journey became a powerful narrative, shared cautiously at first, then more openly, illustrating how true connection could transcend social barriers, past hurts, and the cynical expectations of a materialistic world. The lessons they had learned, often through pain and misunderstanding, became the bedrock of their shared philosophy. That empathy, forgiveness, and genuine love were the most potent forces for change. Their story was a living example that destiny could indeed take unexpected turns, leading individuals from vastly different walks of life to a shared purpose and profound happiness. Life, however, was not without its continuous challenges. New business ventures, unforeseen global events, and the complexities of managing their philanthropic empire constantly tested their resolve. Yet, they faced each obstacle together, a united front, their bond strengthening with every trial overcome. Alexander, no longer the solitary guarded CEO, learned to lean on Sarah's wisdom and emotional intelligence, finding in her a partner who not only understood his ambition but also softened its edges with her gentle perspective. Sarah, in turn, found in Alexander an unwavering champion, a man who saw her strength and intelligence and empowered her to utilize her unique talents on a grander scale. Their home became a haven of happiness and warmth, filled with the laughter of children, their own, and often the children of friends and family, who found solace and joy within their loving embrace. It was a home built on understanding, mutual respect, and an abundance of love, a stark contrast to the sterile opulence Alexander had once inhabited. They fostered an environment where open communication was paramount, where vulnerabilities were embraced, and where every member felt cherished and supported. The family they built was a testament to their journey, a living legacy of the love that had defied all odds. The lasting message of their story echoed far and wide, that love, compassion, and redemption were indeed powerful forces capable of changing lives, not just for the individuals involved, but for entire communities. It was a message of hope, reminding everyone that kindness, even in its smallest forms, could spark monumental transformations. Alexander would often reflect on that fateful day, the day a poor girl had mistakenly entered his car, thinking it an Uber. A wry smile would grace his lips as he admitted, to Sarah and to himself, that it was unequivocally the best mistake he had ever made. He had gained not just a wife, but a partner, a confidant, and the truest friend he could ever imagine. His life, once a meticulously constructed fortress of ambition and solitude, had been irrevocably transformed by her unexpected arrival. Sarah, ever the grounded and compassionate woman who had first captured his heart, remained his anchor. Despite their immense wealth and influence, she never lost sight of her roots, continuing to advocate for the voiceless and champion the cause of justice. Her enduring strength, her unwavering spirit, and her boundless capacity for love were the qualities that had first drawn Alexander to her, and they were the qualities that continued to nourish their extraordinary bond. And so, the poor girl who accidentally stepped into a millionaire's car not only won his heart, but transformed his entire world, proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that destiny often arrives in the most unexpected of rides, leading to a legacy of love that would inspire generations.